detective. Thrill me.
Look, everywhere it happens, it's all connected by the sewers. What happened? If we stick together, all of us will win.
Make it a wonderful day. Kill them all! Kill them all!
It. Rated R. September 8th.
It, Chapter 1 from 2017. Directed by Andy Muschietti.
Sure.
Who did Mama. Produced by Seth Graham Smith, David Katzenberg, Roy Lee, and Barbara Muschietti. The screenplay was by Chase Palmer, Kari Fukunaga. I think I may have
You're
got
doing
that
your
right.
best.
Kerry Fukunaga.
You've macheted that one.
And Gary Doberman. It's based on a novel by Stephen King, obviously. This cost $35 million and made $700 million worldwide.
Seemed like a bit more.
I would have said there was more. I was at 70 range.
So would I.
Good on them.
A little bit of trivia. The Duffer
Stephen
Brothers.
King is just... He's just laughing it up, isn't he?
Yeah.
Every day he's just
I'll
looking at
take
his
that
bank account going,
Stupid bastard, still think I'm scared.
he'd get a hefty cut. I reckon
Yeah.
he'd get percentage.
He'd have
of it.
percentages on the back end for sure.
They'd have to pay him, I'm sure they'd have to pay some sort of licensing fee up front and then a percentage as well.
Yeah.
I would imagine.
He's doing just fine.
That's what me and Adam
That's
were
not why
discussing.
Stephen King.
He's climbing the white ladder on the regular, I imagine.
Me and Adam were discussing that earlier, and we're like, the fact that he can just sell his, to uni students, he can do the Dollar Babies project and just ask for $1 in return. A lot of people, who write books for a living would still be saying to the students, look, I've got kids to feed. I need 1,000 minimum. There's got to be something here for me.
Yeah, the Dollar Baby is just for his short stories, isn't it?
Yeah, I think he has to approve it,
And also,
process
he gets the copy of it, and you cannot sell it. You can't
sell
make
it,
any money off it.
Exactly, but
If you do, then he.
But if it's good, look, Steve will sell it.
he gets it.
Steve will put his name on anything. We've seen that before.
Yeah.
As I said, mate, he's still probably receiving checks about Children of the Corn.
Well, the fact that there is
the 10th iteration of Children of the Corn.
the fact that there's two cinematic adaptations of Trucks is all we need to know.
The Duffer Brothers, who obviously created Stranger Things, were initially wanted to direct the movie, but were overlooked as they were not established enough at the time.
Pretty sure they would have got a look in now.
It's got a very similar feel, though.
It does,
I'd be
it does.
interested to see if they had any input that stuck around.
Machete doesn't have a lot of stuff on his resume either, so hard to say that he was super,
Because they would have had Wayward Pines at that point.
Yeah.
Not sure. Stranger Things was, when it was being developed, it would have only just been hitting.
No, Stranger Things season 1 would have already been out.
No, it would have been 2016. That would have been when this was being
yeah, I
filmed.
guess. Yeah.
All right, Jared, thoughts, mate?
Okay, so in terms of Pennywise, there's things about this that I do like a little bit more. Other things that I didn't like so much. I thought Bill Skarsgård was fine. I thought the way that they shot him in a lot of parts was really good. I think at times there's possibly a little too much Pennywise. But the thing that seals the deal for me with this one is the kids. The acting performances are so much better. Updating it to the 80s, which I thought at the time was to cash in on the nostalgia, actually to me seems necessary now because it makes it so much more relatable for people of that time period and allows for someone like Richie Tozier to be that guy that we all knew as opposed to this bloke with the joy buzzer on his hand that's, cracking gags that we never got.
Look at my propeller hat.
Yeah.
And so that the relationships with the kids and the emotional parts hold much more weight for me, much more. And I remember, like Maddie said about the first one, that the first one took its time. I think this one takes far more time developing the character and the relationship with the kids. So even the parts that I don't like with Pennywise that I think might be worse, it still, as a whole, is better for me overall. So not much. It's not like I don't like the old one. I reckon this one's probably a 4 out of 5. But yeah, the emotional weight of it and the performances from the kids just make it that much better for me. And it's longer because it's 2 hours as opposed to the 90 minutes that they took of that lengthy 3 hours.
And
you
of
guys
that
mentioned.
90 minutes, of that first 90 minutes, 25 of it is the adults.
It's the adults.
So
Plus
really
that,
only
exactly.
getting about 70 minutes worth of the
Yeah,
kids.
as opposed to 2 hours
2 hours
15
worth,
or
yeah.
2 hours, minus the credits, about 2 hours 5, 2 hours 10 of the kids.
Just to steal from what you guys have all said, but I guess when I'm saying they're slowing down, I feel like the first one was a movie about kids hanging out that had a scary clown in it. This one's about how a scary clown is ruining these guys' lives and I guess pulling them apart psychologically and physically eventually, sort of thing, which is not a bad thing. Different movies, but this one's a horror flick, the other one's sort of a feel-good movie that has scary aspects in it. Maybe not so scary for you, Gibbo, but
How much of a feel-good movie it is then, you lunatic?
the first one,
Johnny
the first
Riddle
one
was
is-
not
this
feeling
one's-
good.
Yeah.
Stanley wasn't feeling good.
But I guess all that stuff, the like I said, they overdo the bonding and all that sort of thing, and the kids hanging out and innocence and all that sort of thing. I think this one
they definitely
not as
play
much.
it up more.
Yeah,
me and you had the opposite feelings. That's what I loved about this one that I didn't like about the first one.
this one just kicks into overdrive instantly. Like
Yeah.
it redoes some of the stuff and adds some new stuff in that's really, really good. Again, I just couldn't watch this new one though without thinking about the old one, and I would have loved to have seen this one first. Or without the lens of the other one. I remember watching it in the cinema, just exact same thing. I'm like, that's this guy, that's that guy. That doesn't look like what I expected. Yeah, so some of the relationships are a bit different. But for me, it's sort of hovering around that 3.5, 4, and it hasn't, like we said, it hasn't got really any big problems with it that you could knock it down to a 3.5. It'd be embarrassing if I did say that. So.
So it's a 4 then?
Feel free to say it.
You're allowed to hear
I'm not ashamed. I'm not ashamed to do my own thing.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's a solid movie, and it's got bits that are like you're laughing out loud, and then it's got bits that you're just like, man, this is so chilling or awkward, uncomfortable that you just are not going to get from anything from the 1990s or 80s.
Me next?
Yep.
I love this movie a lot, and I don't think there's anything in this that I don't think is significantly better than the first one. Obviously, the time that it's made and the budget and everything probably helps there a lot, but in terms of the scares and stuff, this outstrips the first one, tenfold. And then their relationships and the acting and everything. It's honestly one of my favourite movies, and I'm not a horror guy. I just think this movie is so well made. The fact that they can weave in the kid's story with the narrative of what the clown and everything is actually doing there, and how well they actually flesh him out. I think Tim Curry's performance was good, but I just think this is different. Obviously, he's got a lot of special effects that help with this one as well. But this, like Jared mentioned in the first one, getting a few scenes where you get chills. Every single individual scare that you have with the kids when they first have their interaction with him, like the painting of the person on the wall in the church.
Yeah.
That was a good one.
Mate, when that thing's behind him, I just got the chills out the back of my neck. That is so well done, and it's
What's
simple
it playing?
things.
It's got something in its hand.
It's like a flute or something
That's
like
right.
that. I think.
And he goes,
Yeah,
you
and-
see it kind of in the shadow.
But as soon as he hangs the picture up and you can see that it's not there, you know what that means. And there's so many of those in this.
Why is that picture in a synagogue?
I don't know.
I don't know, but you don't need that. It's just a bit of art, right? But as a little kid, everyone had that thing where you looked at it and it was unnecessarily scary, or you associated with it a certain way. So everyone can relate to that.
My question is, why is that picture anyway? It's fucking hideous.
Well, it reminded me of that. The Scream or whatever it is. It's very similar to that. But there's a lot of paintings like that, and just as a little kid, you look at that and it really
But to render that as like a being, it was like...
Yeah, exactly.
Fell out the bottom of the picture frame.
I think the only one that wasn't really effective was when Eddie runs into the leper or whatever he's supposed to be doing at the front of the house. That one wasn't really scary because it looked really cartoony, sort of fake.
Had those extra long limbs when it was running.
Yeah, but his just wasn't. It didn't have the same effect. But everyone else's, there was some really, really good stuff. It's honestly one of my favourite movies, that I've seen. Period. I can't give it a 5 because that means there's nothing nothing wrong with it. But I'm going to go with a 4.5.
Whew. Yeah, I echo that. I think it's a really, really good adaptation of the source material. It's much better than the original miniseries. Again, having a big budget and being a studio movie makes it having a lot more to work with. Pennywise is different.
Yeah.
Like, I feel he's different, but it's still a really good performance. But again, the thing that nails this is that the coming of age, the friendships, all that is just really, really well done, and it's a really, really good movie. And so I give it a 4.5 as well.
You're a smart guy, Adam.
Yeah, I know. To get into the atmosphere that they build up, I think they do a really great job of separating the good times with the kids together, having that sort of jaunty, sort of up vibe feel, and then every time you think that Pennywise is going to be around or there's something of that nature, there's a certain atmosphere that's
the lighting
brought
full
in.
stop though. You can tell they've make a conscious decision. It's a lot darker when you know the clown's around, and then it's like obviously light at points where
when they're having those times out at the jumping off in the quarry and everything like that. That's all just like it feels like that's like something you'd find in a high school film or something like that. Or a Stand By Me, and then it just changes gears suddenly, and we're back to Pennywise becoming very much involved, and it's just really, really well shot. The cinematography is great. Everything about it is really good. There's really striking colours, and there's a lot of sweeping types of shots at some points, and then there's these ones at odd angles and stuff. It keeps you off on your toes, kind of. And I think that's really important with a scary movie. You got to be unsure of what they're going to throw at you.
Yep.
And even if you'd read the book, which I had, I didn't see some of it coming. You're just not 100% sure what they're going to do, and they do it really well.
My first major like was the cold open. I mean, in the original, you've got the one with the little girl with the laundry and stuff like that. This one, they get straight to the Georgie scene, and it's so effective when he's at the thing, and obviously they play a lot of the same beats. Jared mentioned when we were talking about the original, where he goes from being really jovial, and then all of a sudden he switches gears.
Yeah.
He does that perfectly in this. He's just giggling. I'm Pennywise the dancing clown. He's all giggly and stuff, and he just goes really straight face, and you can see it on George's face. He's like, okay, something's really not right here.
Yeah.
And he gets back to being really nervous.
They started off straight away by giving Pennywise a whole lot more depth. It starts off with a growl coming from the sewer.
Yeah.
And then you see the eyes.
Just the eyes,
Yeah. I think it's got a little bit more depth to, and then it turns into the whisper, and then you start seeing the dribbling, which just makes you so unnerving.
Another podcast mentioned this, The Losers Club. It's a Stephen King podcast, and they were talking about this review, and they specifically mentioned the voice, about how it was different to Curry's, but it was like so unnerving because it's like a voice you don't hear.
Yeah.
It's like not a human voice. And then the thing that I loved that he did that wasn't anything like what Tim Curry did was those moments of he just freezes and he's looking and the drool comes out, and you could see he's got that kind of pursed lips. And his eyes are just like fixated.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's fucking creepy.
The luminous colours of the
face.
eyes and the lips. It just, it pops
Also,
a bit as well.
His eyes are a little bit off centre too. Like they're pointing out a little bit more than they should be, which just makes him look like he's a bit more unhinged.
They use that a lot. Like the eyes are rolling from opposite sides of the
they
head.
come into the middle when he
I actually really liked his design too. I never noticed it until this time around, but those lines on his face are like straight almost, and then when he moves his mouth, they move big time, and it's like just the hair as well. The fact that he never really looks like a clown, or his clown look fits more with being from long time ago, like the costume and everything.
Yeah, like in the 20s sort of thing.
Yeah, but then the hair looks like demonic almost. It looks kind of like horns or something. Like yeah, I was a big fan of the redesign, and that's not to say I didn't like the Tim Curry one too. That always holds a special place.
Well, that's iconic.
In the drain out the front of my house, but yeah, I was a big fan of the redesign, and I think Bill Skarsgård was excellent.
They shock you. They shock you straight out of the old one as well. When Georgie runs into the support, the warning sign.
And that's how he loses the.
You're just like, all right, we're in a different movie now.
Yeah.
It does a good job of sort of shaking the old one off.
But even
Then
like,
they-
when you say
they-
little kids, you never expect little kids. Like, obviously, if you know the movie, you know that Georgie's gonna have a bad day.
Yeah.
But you don't expect to see a little kid get their fucking arm ripped off by a pound chewing on someone. You know what
and
I mean?
that's part of where the money came in. Like you saw, like, they didn't cut away from Pennywise and then cut back to, obviously we've just jammed in a couple of false teeth and a couple of lenses in his eyes and whatever, and then stop it because we can't show any gore or anything. They fucking showed the arm getting ripped off, and then they used that big crane shot looking straight down.
Yeah.
And the
it's
hand just
The hand
creeping
just
out.
comes
I was
out,
just
yeah.
like, yeah, that.
It's a
just
quick
that
one. Isn't
added
it skeleton claw or is it an arm? I can't
No,
remember.
it comes out really close, like quite slowly behind him, like his
Yeah.
arm stretches
And
right
it
over
is
the
really
drain, then
quick.
drags
Oh,
him back
yeah.
in,
It
and
is
he
really
drags
quick.
him back quickly. Yeah.
That quick drag back. I
Yeah.
don't know if I imagine
Yeah.
it does a claw or something. I like those shots from above as well. It was so different. It looked so much more professional.
Even the old
Yeah,
lady,
just
when
that
she looks
money,
out, she's a little
yeah.
boy looking
Yeah.
into the drain, and then she looks back later, and it's just a puddle of blood.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what Matty was saying. It's funny that he mentioned it about that first one, about this whole town knows sort of what's going on, but is ignoring it, and kind of adds to the whole shithole vibe of Derry. Like, this place is a terrible place.
Six
Like,
times a death rate.
she
Yeah.
looks at it and then goes back inside and then sees that he's not there and then still goes back inside.
You're not questioning that kid in the rain, full stop. Like,
She's got cats to worry about, mate. She's got priorities.
that cat does not give a shit.
Never give a shit.
The young cast is excellent.
Yeah.
They really nail it. They're all very good.
Eddie is like an old man.
Yeah.
He's a little old dude.
I like the original Eddie. He's like really straight. He like rarely smiles. He knows everything that's going on with everybody. But this one sort of.
I liked how this one
looks
had
like
a-
his Mo or something from this.
It goes to that sort of genuine vibe that I was talking, but it's like when he's around his mum, he's one person, then when he's around the other kids, he's still got that, like, you know, the old man vibe. He's always worried about the, you know, germs, or he's going to get sick, or you can't touch that, you'll get AIDS,
Grey
AIDS,
water.
AIDS, whatever,
Yeah.
grey water, and then. But he's fired up too, like he tells, you know, he's dropping F words and things like that when he gets too cranky. He's like this pent up aggression that comes out of him. Like, he was really good. But all of them, like
They cut out a lot of the.
Finn Wolfhard was fucking
Glasses.
awesome as Richie.
Glasses.
Like, he was genuinely funny,
Yeah.
and genuinely had a couple of bits where I remembered back to someone like this bozo over the other side saying something like, well, like, you know, when they're talking about, it was a beaver camp or whatever, still is, you know, does that sort of shit. I was just thinking, that's something Gibbo would have said. Absolutely.
Gibbo still says.
When he's leaving Eddie's house. Do you want a kiss from me, Mrs. K?
Yeah, that was just hilarious.
Yeah, I think they're all very good. I actually think Beverly is the best performance in the movie.
Yeah.
And is the
Far
most
more developed.
Yep,
too.
and is the most important character in the.
Well, she's the most
Entire
mature
film.
out of them as well. She's obviously had a different life than those boys had had.
Yeah, and I do like the fact that they do go into that, but they don't turn it into a really grubby
You
sort
get
of situation.
uncomfortable.
You
if
know
so
that
you don't
it's
have to say
dicey,
anything. Yeah.
and you know it's not good, but they never overstep the fact that, yeah, look, we know that something nasty's going on here.
Yeah.
But
All that's to say is you're still my special girl.
Yeah,
and
and he
that sort of
touches
stuff. And you're
her
like,
on the
oh,
cheek
you
and stuff,
slimy
and you're like,
mother-
That made me feel really. That's in my dislikes. That made me feel so uncomfortable.
That's the only dislike I got.
But I think that's the most important character, and the best thing about the second part is that they've cast the adult version of her with someone who's very capable.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's required basically because this performance was so good. So all of them were good. Always good to see Creighton Duke.
Yeah, Creighton
Yeah,
Duke showing up. Thankfully, he wasn't talking about hot dogs and donuts.
That's that sort of bullshit.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's always good to see Stephen Williams as his grandfather. Was his grandfather? or his
Except
dad?
if you happen to be watching Route 666. That's probably when it's
True.
not good to have him on screen.
I actually dug on the soundtrack too.
Oh yeah.
Kind of had a few 80s sort of gems in there. The New Kids on the Block gets a nice.
That was a good laugh, wasn't it?
Yeah.
That
I love
whole
that.
scene with Ben and her out the front of the school gets a big like from me. Because
Yeah.
in the first one, it's just he sees a running towards the bushes or whatever, and then goes and are
Yeah,
you
talks to her,
alright?
and then those two girls come past and call it white trash or whatever they call it.
And that's kind of that's a good example of the stuff that's not really developed. Whereas in this one, that moment is fucking pure gold. Him fumbling with that thing and
He's all
dropping it,
and then her saying,
He's
can I
much
sign?
better.
Can I sign your book? And his face just.
Yeah.
When he's
He
totally
sells that.
selling. He's totally selling that 12-year-old thing of I just fell in love with you in this one moment.
You don't remind
And
me
then-
of Bart Simpson with the babysitter in The Simpsons.
Yeah. And then
Same vibe.
when
Please
she
don't
walks off and he goes, "Baby, don't go." That's another new kid's. And then kind of walks off with the headphones going behind. Like that sort of moment was just absolute gold to watch.
Yeah, that's the sort of stuff that gets this movie
And gets your
what makes it
soundtrack
so
moments.
high.
I love that it gets, like with all the kids, they have their own individual fears and it gets straight to them. You get a lot of I mentioned them earlier on, but Mike with the slaughterhouse
That's
situation.
really cool.
That one, like the hands coming out is one thing, but then when the door blows open and you've just got Pennywise silhouette behind the plastic curtain,
just see his
and he
eyes.
sees his eyes, and then the bullies come down and obviously everything's just gone, sort of thing.
You see the cash. That's where you see the cash that the other ones
exactly.
couldn't match that sort of stuff.
But then you find out with Mike's situation with his family, like that's why the hands were trying. That's his fear, because his family passed away doing that.
Looks
sort of thing.
so good, doesn't it?
Yeah, it looks unreal. Then the painting face coming to life. The Easter hunt, headless Easter hunt guy when he's in the.
Oh yeah,
And
I
he's
actually
sort of-
love
sort of motions.
how he
chasing
comes down
after
the stairs, but then when he turns into Pennywise and
Yeah, and he
he's
goes,
coming
"Hey,
up,
fat boy" or whatever.
yeah.
I actually love that one, even though I thought I mentioned in the original, it was one of the moments I really liked where it was just measured and really short. I really loved the way that one was shot in this,
Especially when he's in the book stacks.
and the jerky
It jerks
head,
really funny,
like you see it come down
Sounds like
under
a
the door
robot.
frame, and then it reveals it's got no fucking head, and
Yeah, and it's just
like,
dropping the eggs.
Yeah. Underrated too. The part where he's looking through the book and sees
The head in the trees.
Well, he sees the head in the trees, but did you notice the librarian in the background?
No?
Go back and watch that shit.
Oh, is it Pennywise?
I watched it in the cinema, and motherfucker, I just watched it and thought, I better check that out again on DVD. In the background, the librarian at one point just turns and starts staring at him, turns and stands up and starts staring at him. They cut to a shot of the photo, and then it cuts back to her, and she's a little bit closer, and she's just standing there staring at him with like a Pennywise grin. You can totally
really?
see
Yeah,
a grin.
yeah.
It's not him, it's just her. They don't do anything
No,
to
I
the
didn't notice
actress,
that.
but it's fucking creepy. She's out of focus, and I was just
Don't
thinking,
get
did I
tingly
actually
again.
see that or did I not? But I watched that back, and that was one of the scariest bits for me. I'm just like, just get her out of there. She's got to sit down.
Don't
mate.
like that lady. Get her away
Yeah.
from me. There's that. There's also the Bill going down into the following his little brother. Like he thinks Georgie. He thinks he sees Georgie or whatever. Even when he's standing at the top of his house and you see the light coming in Georgie's room.
Yeah.
There's nothing to that should be scary. But you're like, fuck, something's going
Yeah.
on. But when he goes down there and he sees him come up behind him in the water, and then he starts coming at him with his head shaking and stuff.
Yeah.
That stuff's it's just really effective.
Yeah.
A lot of people, I know some people like that I've heard from on reviews and stuff didn't like that stuff, but I thought it was really effective, and especially when Georgie was like starts yelling. I don't like anyone yelling at me, so that's gonna unsettle me a little bit. Yeah.
I feel like that sort of people knocking that stuff is just people being
Picky.
really upset about something being different than the original.
Or that you got to justify that the original was better in some way, like because even when
Why
he
can't
when
they
he
just both be
finishes that,
separate entities though?
just that little bit on the stairs where Pennywise kind of they show the shot of
looks
him
up at
running
him.
up the stairs and he's kind of sideways and he just kind of flops onto the stairs and then he goes and just sort of slides back.
Yeah.
That shit's creepy.
Yeah.
It works. It really works.
Yeah.
But I also think that when Patrick dies in the sewer, and he's using the flamethrower,
Yeah. The can.
and then next thing you know, he turns around and the balloons just, and then he just comes bursting out from behind it.
Even when he first sees the crowd of zombies that are there though, because he's just like you said that he's dark and then it's light and there's anytime that's used in a movie it's very
it's
effective.
really
Good
effective.
suspense. I'm so glad that they've inspired a whole new generation to light deodorant cans.
Yeah.
That was a solid thing.
Yeah, that's so bulbs. He's going to blow up some soda bulbs.
Dear.
We mentioned it earlier on, but the bonding scene at the quarry specifically for me, like I did that exact same thing. We had a place just outside of Young when I was growing up. It was a 10-metre waterfall, and we'd all go out there and jump off this waterfall and like get up to mischief in the exact same way. It's just they nail all the notes of that. Like as a like that was in the 80s. Like it's just it takes you back to when you actually did it.
Yeah.
It's obviously I think they moved it to the 80s to hit our age bracket, and they know who's going to the movies at this point. So I think that was really smart. But that scene is just. It's just money. Even when there's the scene when the boys, she's just laying there listening to music. All the boys just like this.
And it's going on.
And then she wakes up.
What's the song that's going on?
I can't remember.
Bust a Move.
That's right.
Yeah.
Bust a Move.
I found that a bit Lolita-ish. Like
And they're all just
But that's what the boys would have been doing. She's probably a bit older than they are.
Yeah, I don't think they shot it in that way. Like I didn't.
No, they're just like, that's a girl. What are we going to do? Like,
Yeah,
no,
and
they
they only really showed one shot of her, and then it was kind of like back to the boys. And I was like, I get what you're saying, but I was
just how they all get busted though, and they're all just like, oh, I just what was I doing? I was scratching my leg. That's right. Yeah, that stuff was gold. And the love triangle chemistry between her and Ben and Bill works a lot better in this one than it did in the first one.
Yeah, exactly.
Hopefully it works better in the second part as well, because I've got a lot of questions about how that'll work. But all the kids' interactions with each other, they just between Eddie and who's the Finn Wolfhard character?
Richie.
Yeah, Eddie and Richie's back and forth about mums and dicks and stuff like that. It's just, it's on the money every single time. I fucking love it. It's great.
I think that this one does just as good a job as the whole idea that the parents are ineffective.
Yeah.
Eddie's mum is just fat and lazy and sitting around the house.
She's gross.
and,
Every time she turns up, I'm like, she's disgusting.
Nice jumpsuit.
I like the first.
She's got that kind of red sheen to her, like sunburnt to her.
Lolly burst capillaries there. Yeah.
Constant sweat. Yeah.
She drinks gravy for breakfast.
That first shot of her in the recliner. It's just like
give me a
like,
kiss.
and like her feet are enlarged. I'm like, I don't want to see that.
You see that obviously Bill's parents are now, they just don't want to
detached.
They just don't want to be involved. You know, their son's gone.
He's very harsh when Bill builds the model of the sewers and says, I think you could be in the Barrens.
Yeah.
That's a very hard way to deal with your son who's lost a brother. Like,
he's just like, I don't want to
just
talk about
cold.
it. He's gone. He's
But
dead.
it sells that, wits end kind of.
And then when
pack
but
this
also
up
that the
before
kids
your
are on
mother
their own
sees
too.
it. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
and then when Ben's getting attacked, that car just drives past.
Yeah, that's not latent bullying. They're
Just
carving the
lets it
stuff
go,
into his
yeah,
guts with a butterfly
See you
knife.
later, they keep driving.
Yeah, but they've got the balloon in the back of the car.
Yeah,
That's the
yeah.
exact same note in the original one. So
it's it's just showing that the parents are. They can't trust the parents to help them.
Yeah, I found it a little bit. I was sitting there watching it, thinking, so obviously there's that theme. Each of the kids has something wrong with them. Well, it's like we've got one kid that's fat. We've got family trauma that's happening to Bev. We've got the fat controlling mum. We've got one of them that's got glasses. Is that the bad thing with Richie?
Richie.
One of them's Jewish. That's his curse.
His seems to be religious or the pressure from being
that his dad's the
rabbi
and everything. So
well, I felt like that was a little bit awkward. But then I feel like they did a really good job in bringing Bowers into that. He's also got his own problems.
Yeah,
he's
which
one of those.
Didn't happen in the other one.
They didn't show you don't sympathise with him at all.
No.
He's just a little prick. But in this one, you can see the fear that the dad has the control and that's.
I love the way he shoots the gun at his feet and then says, see what happens. Big man crumbles when there's fear.
Paper
man crumbles. Yeah, like that stuff is great.
Yeah, is that his dad as well in the beginning when he's bullying the kids at the front? His dad's in the corner.
And I also love when Dad dies. I can
that's
straight through
brutal.
the jugular vein with a bloody.
Pennywise on the TV.
And he actually goes to the parents being ineffective too because he's treating his own son like shit. Well, not the parents, the adults, but he's the cop seeing his son do this to other people, and he basically just looks at his son.
Yeah,
and
he's turned him into what he
is. Left to fend for themselves.
Yeah,
like he doesn't say to apologise to that kid or stop doing that or whatever. He just deals with them and then goes on his way.
I left that whole idea of these kids are all like stuck in a new reality when they don't have the fear anymore. When that becomes normal, then I guess that reality doesn't exist without the fear, if that makes sense. And it's just that whole thing. We ignore so many things that are horrible that are happening to people in our lives. Could be your best friend. These horrible things are happening and we just ignore it. But I felt like this movie did a much better job, I guess, of pointing that out. Take 2 seconds to think about the horrible things that are happening to everyone and the things that we all ignore. So maybe took me on a deeper level. And I don't know. Did you hear that, Gibbo?
Yeah, for sure.
Well, in 3 hours, he was questioning lots of things.
The first one, the first one didn't do that anywhere near as
I think
well.
you might be questioning life itself. After watching 3 hours.
No, this one didn't. Like,
This one's fine.
This
And
was
then I
like 2 hours, but it
saw
didn't feel like a
a
long 2
giant
hours.
floating turtle, and
I think the slideshow sequence,
That's the next one.
which is basically a replacement for the photo album,
book, yeah.
Yep.
but it's creepy as all
Doesn't
hell
look
when
cool.
her face suddenly starts changing and
That's
then
a
he's
bit-
got the buck teeth sticking out and, and then
Yeah.
suddenly it changes again and it's Pennywise, but it's almost like a wig on, it looks really creepy.
That was the bit where I remember when the trailer came out, I was watching it at work with a couple of blokes there and they were like, oh, this won't be scary or whatever. And then that scene came on and they were like, there's no way I'm watching that. But again, so simple. It's just hair blown across the face, but then as it turns towards the camera and you're like, this is something else. It was so effective.
And then
When
he
he pops
comes out of
out.
the actually pops out of the
when he comes out and he's
screen.
giant and he's like stomping
the
towards
size
him.
and scale definitely make it scary.
Yeah.
I actually like the fact that they put together the sewer stuff in that scene too. Like they project the sewer,
the old
they
plans
project
over
the
the
old plans
town
over
layout.
the town layout.
Well,
and
that
then
was
say-
another big thing for me was
The
they
house,
do
the
the
sewer.
research, they show how the research works, they don't just kind of throw it together, which is kind of what they do in the original. They kind of throw it
They just
together a
decide
little
that
bit.
it's, it doesn't make
But
sense.
this one, they do the research and they work out where it all is coming
that's the
from.
thing, it was just
Nebel
that-
Street and all that stuff.
It was
is
just
involved.
that short, that little bit to say that's where he is. You know, that's where all this shit's been happening. Because in the original, you kind of assumed because he comes out of drains a couple of times, but then it's just like he's in the sewers. That's where we're going. Like,
So I appreciated that. It was good.
Yeah.
Like a lesser movie would have just not bothered.
Yeah.
You know.
The lesser movie didn't bother.
my favourite laugh of the whole movie. You know what these are? They're gazebos. That was piss funny.
Unexpected.
Pouring up. Yeah.
We're talking about
Because he's fired up about it, you expect it to be straight.
Yeah.
But then he just goes, "These are
But
gazebos."
again, it had a
Completely
purpose
misheard.
because it's like this. Here's the kid, the whole loss of innocence. The whole I'm stepping back and talking back to my mother. I'm coming into my own, but I'm still a naive little fucker who calls it a gazebo. It's good.
If we're talking about the best laughs, then my favourite line in the whole fucking movie is when they're patching up poor little Ben, and Richie yells out, "This motherfucker's leaking hamburger helmets!" I lost my shit. I was actually having a mouthful of drink, and it came up my nose. That's what I forgot about it from when I first watched it. That is just, it's mean but funny as hell at the same time.
It was very funny.
I really like the sequence when they finally, as they get towards the finale, they go to Nebel Street for the first time, and they all have a interaction with Pennywise, and there's so many really cool visuals, like the room full of clown dolls, the mattress where the kid's head just pokes out of it and then just starts spewing blood everywhere, the 3 doors, scary, not so scary, and very scary. That stuff was really cool. And then when Pennywise gets stabbed through the face,
and his face is
and
all
part of
distorted.
his face is over here, and he's like,
Yeah.
It's a bit different, isn't it? Things floating up in the air.
like it's
in
really
the webs.
it again, you can see the money. The money's being used to effect, but just really cool visuals.
I actually really loved in the den, just when they sort of get down to the final battle sort of thing. I just, for some reason, I really love the imagery of just the pile of kid stuff left behind.
Little trikes and...
Yeah, I like, obviously these are the things that he's taken off kids that he's killed and stuff, but the whole theme, the themes of the book about coming of age and that was a really kind of striking imagery of that's your childhood just left in a pile and you're an adult now. Like,
Also, what about that weird looking woman who attacks
Dolce.
Stan?
Oh.
She's got the long face and she comes
it's
at
the
him
same
down.
one.
That's the one
Same one from the painting.
And it grabs him, then they
teeth.
find him chewing on his face.
Yeah.
And it's like,
You don't come back from that either.
Yeah,
You'll
yeah,
stand like, my face was inside her mouth. I'm out.
I'm out.
Yeah.
But it's again, it comes out of nowhere, like out of the darkness, because they're down in the sewer. The lighting's really, really.
I didn't understand how he got segregated from the group there, because obviously that was when Mike was having
He
the
got
fight
called
with.
off. I think he heard Bev's
Yeah,
voice.
he heard
Yeah.
the voice. And
He heard Bev's voice.
So he just went off on his own. 'Cause
Yeah,
that's not,
yeah.
I'm not
But
doing
they-
that.
yeah,
Sorry.
that was one of the dislikes. They
I
did
say, hey
that a
boys,
lot.
I think I hear Bev. Come with me. I'm not. You're not going off on your own.
Lots of
just-
people were going
we've just
off.
spoken
Everyone
about-
was going. They're going off in the house. They're
Well,
going off
Bill's
in
understanding
the
because he's just like,
sewer.
I don't give a fuck.
We just
All of
spoke about Stick Together, didn't we? Like,
Yeah.
Yeah, let's not.
But that's the lure of it, I guess.
Yeah.
But that did annoy me a little bit.
The last scene too, the cutting of the hands, I thought that was again, it was like the puffer before they go in the original, like when they
Yeah.
come out, this was the one that held the weight for me, like the fact that, you know, Eddie's a germaphobe, but he'll cut his
do that,
hand with the glass because this group means that much to him, and
Yeah.
I was a big fan of that, and the way that they shot one person at a time, just sort of
Going
off,
by,
fading.
just faded into
Yeah.
someone else doing
I
it.
like that. I also really felt the emotion when Bill actually sees Georgie again,
Yeah.
and he's missing his arm, and he's all sort of he's dead, and he starts saying, "I want to come home, and I miss everyone."
Yeah, that was effective.
You're
'cause-
waiting for him. You're just waiting for Bill to get slaughtered
Yeah,
at
Yeah.
that point.
Yeah.
yeah.
But it was
It's
Waiting
kinda
for,
sad.
you're waiting for Georgie
It was
to
very sad,
change,
that bit.
and you're waiting for Bill to get slaughtered.
Nice little him coming to terms with it finally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're not my brother.
You know, it'd be bad though if he made the call and shoots him in the head with a spike gun.
Yeah, I
And
was
then finds
thinking
out that actually was him. It's
Yeah, he hadn't
and
seen
Pennywise,
Bev
"No, that
come
was
down."
actually your brother. I just brought him here to test you.
I thought they actually like they played that pretty well because he lays there for a few seconds and you like it's not, but then you kind of they play it long
Might
enough.
be,
You think,
or-
oh.
Yeah.
But then when he
it's not.
starts convulsing and stuff,
Yeah.
you're, sweet, thank God that wasn't him.
That's a definite like.
You mentioned this one before, but when Henry stabs his dad in the neck,
Yeah.
that's another one where you think it goes back to the start bit with Georgie, where this little kid won't get eaten on screen. Like you're not going to see a little kid get murdered. In that same vein, you like usually don't see a son stab his dad in the neck, and just watch him bleed out with complete lack of
Disregard for
any
the fact that he
feeling
just killed
whatsoever.
him, yeah.
It's
He's
just
just
another one
standing
that's just
there,
shock value. You're like, holy shit, he's fucking done it. Like,
Yeah.
that's not half. Like, he's just bled his dad out on the couch.
Yeah.
And that also tells you now that kid is right off the rails. Like, he could do anything.
Yeah.
Which is why when he's got Mike there, you think, oh, fuck, well, Mike's actually in real trouble until he throws
He
him down the well.
puts the thing to his head.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love the way that while that's happening too, that kids show's on TV and it's just
Pennywise.
Yeah, that was
just
awesome,
Pennywise
wasn't
talking
it? Yeah,
about killing
Because the
them
main
all.
host just walks away and then he's there.
Yeah, singing along with the kids. It's
Yeah.
like, yeah, that's messed up.
Creepy as shit.
I found it a bit weird in that scene though, that when he finds the knife, he's got his mates there, and then the next time you see him, he's killing his dad. I'm wondering what the conversation is with his mates.
You guys wait outside and you go
Between-
neck my dad.
Yeah, he's like, all right, guys, see you later.
Yeah.
Because he goes catatonic when he finds the knife, and his eyes are all serious. He's got his stiff arms, like he
Yeah.
can't move his arms.
I think
at
you're
that
supposed to think that he's under Pennywise influence at that point,
Yeah.
even, because the balloon's on the mailbox
It's a much
as well.
better rendition of it than in the original one. He just turns. It becomes ridiculous in the original.
Yeah.
But I would have liked to see that conversation between him.
Well, see, that's going to be the big difference too, because he's an adult. Like, he's locked up in the asylum in the original.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, he ages
But yeah,
out
he
and
seems
everything.
There's a
to be
few
dead
questions I
in
got
this
for the next one.
He falls down the hole and it basically.
Oh, unless
Yeah, but you don't
Pennywise
see him. You don't
brings him
see him, so.
But the
I'm
way he goes,
assuming
like,
we're
that's a
gonna-
long way down it. Well, you don't bounce
Yeah,
that. You
I'm
I know,
assuming
but
he's still alive.
all I'm looking at is that there's not. They didn't show him.
Because again,
I'm thinking
he's
that-
integral later on.
I'm
Like,
thinking
yeah.
they're trying to.
So-
I'm thinking they'll just bring him back as like a
Yeah.
undead, like.
No, I think
Because
you'll
they
find
put more-
he's basically back in the asylum.
They put more effort into as Maddie said, they put more effort into him, more time into that character in this one. So it wouldn't make sense to just drop him.
Yeah, I know. I'm not sure.
Yeah,
but
how's he coming
I just
back
don't see
from
how
that?
you walk.
Remember,
I don't know, but
He
this-
bounced off the
two
walls.
The two things that get me are they developed him more and he's important down the track. So why would they just drop him? And secondly, you don't actually see him dead. As far as he fell and the fact that he hit the wall, they didn't show a body.
He hit
laying
like
there.
3 walls.
yeah.
I know, but
But
they
the fact
didn't.
is-
They didn't see it. You just saw it from the top of the
It's
hole.
27
So
years later. Like, you know, so it's highly possible he's just in the asylum and he's fine.
If they bring him back, it would kind of be stupid that they tried to leave it like that. But I think he's going to be there and they're trying to do cliffhanger, like trying to stretch it out a bit.
It's just a tough sell, that one, because he fell a long way.
I know, but why would you do it? Why would you develop him more than you did in another one that brought him back? And
I
he's
agree with
an
you.
important
Just,
part
I
of
just
the
don't
book.
understand how you can explain away what happened to him then. And
I reckon he's going to be there. I reckon
I don't know. I think he's played his purpose.
He fell into water or something.
No,
He's played his purpose.
But he comes back.
I don't
He
know.
comes back in.
If you watch the second hour,
And the
and a half I
remake,
watched,
and
he's
the-
very important.
But I know, I've seen it before. Like I grew
Yeah.
up on
And
it.
he's
But he's
in the
the
book and everything.
in the
but he
book,
can
he
get
plays
somebody
an
else to
bigger
be
role.
the physical conduit to do his
But-
bidding. He can
No,
get
but it was
somebody else.
important.
Why wouldn't you
In the
keep that
book, it was
connection to the
important.
childhood?
Yeah.
It was important that he was back.
Because he was one of their fears.
Yeah.
We'll get this
Thank you.
answered in the
Yeah.
next movie.
I'm almost-
That's a question that I
My feeling is it's I can't see how it wouldn't be him in there. And if they do, I think they're silly to have developed it this
Nah.
much in this one. And
I don't think they will. I think he'll be back. We'll just have to accept that he fell a
I hope
long
not.
way but didn't
I don't
die.
know.
I saw that and I just saw a classic. You know, you didn't see a body.
Maybe it'll be as simple as
So-
he gets to the bottom, he lands at the bottom, and there's a lot of mud, and he just like it sort of absorbs the impact or something, and he doesn't.
Maybe that mullet acted as a helmet.
It's a sick mullet.
Paddy.
Doesn't he look like Kevin Bacon?
He did look like Kevin Bacon with Footloose. Yes.
Bakesy. Sizzling. All the way. Any other likes, people?
There's lots, but it all goes to the same stuff.
Yeah. I think it's definitely covered there. There's a lot to like about it. There's no doubt about that. Dislikes. I only
Yeah,
had
they're covered.
one, and it's similar to the original. The ending is just so quick. It just kind of happens.
It has the exact same feeling as
They
the
built him over the head with a few sticks, and then part of his head crumbles away, and he basically goes down the hole himself. You know, he kind of hauls himself over and then falls. You know,
The way that his head sort of starts to disintegrate and float away, it feels like a more of an air finality than the first one. The first one he just sort of slinks into back into the drain. This one it seems like they've actually done like lasting damage.
Yeah.
But obviously that won't be the case. But
I just felt it was a little too quick for my taste.
yeah, but again, it goes back to them. They don't have the fear of him anymore. They're all banding together and they're actually going at him.
Yeah, so
and that's all it
threat
takes for him to lose his power.
They can't kill him. They can't kill him in this one. They've got to.
Yeah.
They've got
He'll
to.
be
Like,
back.
they've got to. Yeah. They've got to make sure that he's not completely finished off. I guess that's probably why it's.
But
Quick.
it just felt rushed. We got all the way down there, and then it just sort of happens in a minute or two. That's over. But that's it. That's the only real negative I could find.
I had two, but one's very similar to the first one. It's the Beverly's dad relationship thing. We sort of touched on it a little bit. He's very cringy, but then the only other thing I had was the true love's kiss thing. Bringing Beverly back out of when Ben goes, I'm going to try this on. You understand why he would do that, but that shouldn't have worked.
Yeah.
That's silly. You know what I mean? Like that's like fucking Disney princess bullshit.
Yeah, that was a little
that bugged me.
Well, being on Beverly, one of my dislikes was that I'm not sure about her being taken. Like, it
As a
seems
difference
to
to the original,
diminish. Yeah, well, it seems to diminish. She was so much better drawn out in this one, and then it just seems to diminish her importance.
Yeah.
And she just gets taken away.
Yeah, in the finale, she's not really involved.
She gets taken away, and then the rest of the boys just turn up and
Save her.
we'll save you. Like,
Yeah.
it's,
That was the best surprise though when she's just
It
knocked
was,
her dad
yeah,
out, and then he's just there grabbing her by the
It
throat.
was. That was a really good.
It does turn
that
her into a
moment
damsel in
was
distress
good,
though
but
when
it
she's
turns-
kind of
Yeah, true.
she's usually the most independent and functional one, and
she's been very independent throughout, and then suddenly she's
And it's
just,
weird. It's at a time where she's just
Whereas
faced her fear, right? Like pretty much, completely destroyed the fear.
And the original had her super important because none of the other guys could use the slingshot. So she had to be there.
Yeah.
And then this one, which drew the character out so much better, as Adam said, Adam felt she was one of the most important almost.
Yeah.
And then it's kind of like, well, we didn't really need you in a way.
Yeah.
You just become the bait almost.
well, even that though, they've done away with the slingshot, which is massively important, which means they've done away with the little silver charms.
Yeah.
Also super important in the original. So
earrings.
how are they going to replace that stuff? Because
I don't think
there's no one thing that affects him in this one. They're hitting him with bats and fucking spears and all sorts
They
of
took
things.
away the need for the, I guess, the physical manifestation of the fear going. We're going to trust in this thing. This, like the Puff ain't the same thing. They got rid of both of those. Instead, it's just that feeling.
Just the belief, yeah,
that's enough.
It just seems weird because in the segment, like Mike goes back and specifically gets the silver earrings.
Well, this is where my trepidation about the second chapter comes in.
Yeah.
You jettison key things.
Yeah.
That on the surface of this one don't seem important, but then in the surface of having both of them, both parts, could it be problematic that you've left some of this out?
Yep.
Because then you can't come back to it, can't bring it back.
Yeah.
That's my only concern about losing some of those.
I guess that.
I don't think they hurt the film at all.
What am I for that was
but-
if you've got how many of those kids were started dropping down to the ground? I don't know how they're gonna, like, surely the town's gonna wake up from and figure out that there is some presence when all of these kids are like, oh yeah, they go back home. I don't know how long have those kids been hanging.
But were the kids alive?
The kids were coming down.
Yeah, I know they came down, but does that mean
think
they were
they're all
alive?
still dead.
I don't think they're alive.
No.
Well, still, they're not going to the cops and saying by the way, there's 50 dead bodies down in the bottom of this sewer
they'll just wave them
under the
off.
scary house, Yeah,
they'll probably just wave them off, say, oh yeah, your kids are playing, like they can just sort of poo-poo the whole
Well, that adds
story.
to my belief that Henry will still be there too, because I think something will be he was in the sewer or whatever, because he takes the blame for it, doesn't he, in the book?
Yeah.
He takes the blame for the killings.
Yeah,
essentially.
and in the original he does too, yeah.
So,
why
yeah,
it's locked up.
I don't know. One of my other dislikes was I don't know why there was a reason to make Ben, for him to take the Mike role in this one.
The historian thing.
Yeah. Because Machete's already said that in the second one, Mike's still going to be the librarian.
Oh, okay.
So I don't understand why Ben.
But he's still.
role.
I think it was a bit shared though, because he'd done that history project on the town, and
all he knew what his dad and his grandparents told him. This is an evil town or whatever.
Yeah.
Ben had done all the work.
Yeah, fair enough.
And either of them really could have been, because he said he spent the time in the hospital, not the hospital, the library when he was lonely. He didn't have any friends there, so he did the research. Mike didn't have the friends either. He was the outsider. So
the homeschool kid.
I just
Mike
don't understand.
takes a long time to get involved.
Mike doesn't get a lot to do.
My problem with that would be more that he's a librarian as opposed to that he's the one that stays behind, because he's the only one that, like, he's got his uncle pushing him and saying, if you go in there, like he does at the beginning when they're killing the sheep, if you either you're in there and they're shooting you in the middle of the eyes, or you're out here doing the hard work and doing the shooting yourself.
Yeah.
So I think they've already separated him a little bit from Derry,
but
to some extent.
Why?
And that's what I'm saying. Like, in terms of the context of the movie, I understand.
And
the
it
reason
looks really bad. You hate to bring it up, but he's the black kid.
Yeah.
So an important role gets shifted to a white kid.
Yeah.
And it's like, I wasn't necessarily looking at it that way. I still like the character, but he gets left with a lot less to do.
Yeah, absolutely.
And if he's gonna be the librarian in the next one, I still don't get. I don't get why.
So that now means the female character and the black character were made much less important in this movie than they were in the original.
Yeah, in a way, because the way Beverly
Definitely.
gets turned into the damsel for a little bit after being, really good prior to that, and Mike gets the important stuff taken away.
Again.
And it's
red
sad
flags
because
for the second one.
I've actually seen a lot said about it online because of Stephen King's sort of propensity for the magical Negro stereotype. And they said this is one of his better characters in any of his books, one of his better sort of minority characters, and it just kind of
got shuffled.
It's I watched it and I don't know why. I just don't know why.
I'm with you. I don't see what that change actually necessitates.
I think maybe it's just because Ben's the outsider, so that he's going to make these connections because it's like not like anything I've ever seen before, or not like any town. He says that, so maybe that's the only reason that they had to get in the understanding of how they were doing it. Is
but
the
Mike's not
outside.
This is what I mean. Mike was lonely too, so surely that could have been shuffled. I don't understand why it was necessary to make those changes.
Yeah.
When Mike's going to end up on that track, that would have made sense for him to be the kid in the library. I just don't get it, because the first one, I didn't watch the first one and go, gee, that stuff about Mike being the librarian doesn't really work.
Yeah.
I felt that was good.
Yeah.
So you've still got the stuff there. I don't see a real purpose to say we really need to shift it to this kid. I didn't get it. I didn't understand it really.
You're right, but Mike is basically barely in it. Like, ultimately, Mike disappears for a period in the centre of the film.
Yeah.
Where he's not involved at all. He's not even there.
Yeah.
And then he turns up.
He's only important because he's one of the main things that brings them all together to galvanise them against Henry.
Yeah.
Yep.
So he really doesn't have much to do. The reason why he's in the original more is because they have the adult and the child. But when the child scene's there, he's barely in them too.
He's barely in it there too. But
So-
the role is important, and
Yes.
that line from "this is my interest, and it's because my father developed it in me" or whatever, to "I'm the town librarian and the torchbearer," that felt natural. But now it's going to feel really weird to go to him as the librarian.
True.
I don't know why. Like I still reserving judgment, but I just look at it and I just say I don't know why that change was. I don't know why it had to be done.
Again, are we talking about unnecessary changes? I think so, yes.
Possibly.
I think there's been a couple of unnecessary changes. To me, it doesn't hurt this
Because
movie,
Ben-
but I'm
Ben
worried
still
about
had-
its flow-on effects.
Yeah.
Ben in the original was still fine for me. The strong part was and I can see him in this movie having that scene with the love triangle part, having something to offer in some way to the group.
Yeah.
Maybe it could be blowing it up a little bit. It didn't diminish a lot of the movie for me. It was just one of those wonderings that kind of came about at the end of it.
Yeah, well, it wasn't really obvious. Like, I noticed the Beverly thing more, but now that you pointed out, like, they're both pretty glaring, really.
Yeah.
Any other dislikes?
If Bowers has a car that's that pretty, I don't think he gives a crap about the nerves. About the nerds. He's probably pursuing other things.
Possibly.
My other one was, if a girl was hanging out with me, I'm not hanging out in my Y fronts.
No. Not a chance.
Going swimming's a bit risky, boys. I'll tell you.
Very risky. Very risky.
I was definitely in board shorts at that point. I would have had, definitely not the tidy whities on.
Footy shorts.
Yeah.
Minimum footy short.
Yeah, again, minor. I just felt a couple of times there was a little bit too much Pennywise. Like, some of the more effective parts were when he was really quick.
It was just in the shadows.
The house one was where there was a little bit too much for me. I loved the clown room, the look of the clown room, and getting your little Easter egg of the original Pennywise in there. But the part where he jumped out of the coffin and started chasing him around the room a bit, it was parts like that where I was just a little bit just pull back just a touch on this one.
When he was hiding, like when he was coming out of the shadows, I did like that a lot.
Yeah, or where
in the sewer. So there's one.
Yeah, where you just see his head pop out or something and then he'd be gone again. You're like, I'm too close to this. I need to get somewhere else and I need to
Where's
get
my
there
doona?
quickly.
Yeah, there was a little bit too much of him.
Yeah.
in there.
It's
They got carried away with having him there.
yeah, a couple of times, but minor.
Because he manifested in so many different ways too. So it was almost like he was in it more because we had all these different sort of versions of him.
And Gibbo mentioned the leper too. I agreed that one didn't really work all that much for me. But when he's at the fence and he turns around and the fucking balloons are all there and they go up and he's just standing there, that did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What did you guys think of when it did that really fast shaking run towards somebody to kill him?
I liked
that
it
was
sparing. I liked it sparing, but they did it about 3 times.
Yeah. Well, they did it in the basement with the water. They did it when, I think at the house as well, he did it.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
He does it to the flamethrower as well.
The other thing I like is when he's doing the what do you call it? The Fortnite dance when he's in the clown cart in the bottom of the thing. He's doing that. And when it opens up, he's like, and it's like his little cart. Like
They seem to have shot that, like, it looks kind of silly, but they seem to have shot it with one of those, I don't know whether it was afterwards or whatever, but where the camera is focused purely on his head.
Yeah.
So the rest of his body's really jerky.
Yeah.
And the head just stays stationary.
Yeah.
That worked.
it's like when you see people walking through a crowd and they've obviously got something mounted to their head and they're looking around and it's following where they're looking behind them. It did look the same thing because his head stayed where it was and everything around him was kind of like flames but also just vibrating.
Bouncing around.
Yeah. That was a really cool shot.
I much preferred the original Eddie's mum, even though like she was disgusting in the second one. But the first one of being that She looks normal, but
A little
she's
bit
so
more
anxious.
just overbearing. Yeah.
Yeah, you don't need anyone but your mum. Like, I found her a bit more believable.
That fit with her personality more because the one in this looked like she wouldn't be able to get off the couch quick enough to stop him from fucking doing it.
Plus, she's probably just a walking petri dish of disease.
Yeah, exactly.
I can't imagine she smells good.
No.
She's got a block of cheese under the couch.
She
pulls out and eats.
She recently found the remote
snack
control
block. You found my snack block.
tucked up between her skin folds somewhere.
I found a bit of the violence a bit gratuitous. Actually stabbing Ben. Oh, that made me really uncomfortable.
When they're carving his belly.
Carving it, yeah.
Yeah, that's a pretty... I mean, that's the kid that starts off pulling butterfly wings off and then starts, torturing cats and just...
But again,
working
I
out.
think it was important to show that
It's a
Bowers
different
was
movie,
an
or-
absolute loose cannon.
Yeah,
Like,
he's properly unhinged.
he was right off his
Because you can
feet.
see that's when Belch goes, oh, hang on, mate. You're
Yeah.
obviously going to... We're
And he's like,
supposed to
shut
be
the fuck
scaring
up.
him.
You know, we're going
Yeah.
to carve our name into it. Like, he'd already lost his mind.
Yeah.
Or he'd partially lost his mind. The original, he was just a run-of-the-mill bully.
Yeah.
You know, there wasn't anything about him where you were thinking, this guy, he could explode into
Had anything in
anything.
it.
Whereas this one immediately kicks off with, this guy's more than just a bully.
Yeah.
His propensity for violence
He's
is
actually a
high,
sociopath. Like,
you
he's a
know.
proper...
He may actually hurt somebody. So I thought that was okay. I thought that was a nice touch. I mean, I believe it's also in the book. Most of that stuff I enjoyed. I thought his character was fleshed out better. So yes,
Yeah,
I
definitely.
believe he will be back. I don't see any reason why they
He
would.
obviously should be. It's just going to be tough. The other one I liked. Well, now I'm going back into likes, but when Eddie's in the chemist and the girls they're going, oh, you know, these are all placebos or whatever else, and she's like, oh, no one signed your cast. She's like, oh, I don't like germs. She goes, I'll sign it for you. And you see it later on. He's there with the red text, and you're like, oh, what's it done? And he's got lower and it's got loser underneath it. That's just gold. Because older girl like that, she's obviously a bit of a bully herself, and she's just being a mean bastard, tricks him into thinking she's doing something nice for him, and writes loser, and he can't do anything about it. It doesn't come off.
That's right.
The way he makes it so obvious that he's put the V on there to love it.
Yeah.
That was funny.
Any other dislikes at all?
Nope.
Good movie.
Yes,
Was.
very good movie. All right, looking forward to chapter 2.
Mm-hmm.
Very
Again,
much.
there are some red flags, but to me, it'll just be interesting how they iron some of this out.
At this point, you just give them the benefit of the doubt because how good a job they did with
so,
this.
so far so good.
Until it's shit, it's
just have to wait and
fine.
see what they do with it.
And in your estimation, it couldn't be worse than the back end of...
The back end of this
Original?
first one is real tough because it's mostly the adults.
Yeah.
And they're very strange, incestuous, whatever they're doing with all their mates thing. But it's just boring. There's just
Chinese
nothing
restaurant.
happening.
Come on.
It's just very hard to when they're little kids. The threat is a lot more like present.
Real, yeah.
When they're adults, it's like, what are you fucking losers doing?
And
Like,
every time you go... Every time you go back
especially
to
Richie. Richie's a fuckwit in the end of the first one. He is just like, what do you even come for, mate? If you just kind of like talk everything down and not help with anything, just piss off. Don't
every time
invade
you go back to the original too, you remember all those scenes from the kids part, and you always get to the back end and think, I forgot about all this shit. Like I've just forgotten it. Well, they hadn't retained any of it really.
Yeah.
It's not very memorable. The second half is
The
not
kids and the
memorable.
music and the vibe, like I said, it makes it feel like a different movie than it is. The second half is just the adventure of the adults trying to deal with it, and it's a lot
It's
weaker.
not as good. Well, that is it, part 1 and chapter 1. If you want to get in touch with us, send us an email at thrillme@iinet.net.au. Like us on Facebook at Thrill Me Podcast Australia, at Podomatic at thrillme.podomatic.com, and on Instagram at thrillmepodcast. Keep an eye on the Facebook page for what we're going to cover next up. But until then, take it easy, and we'll catch up with everyone later. Cheers. Find the podcast at Podomatic or on iTunes. Don't forget to rate and review. Like us on Facebook at Thrill Me Podcast Australia, or contact us at thrillme, all one word, all lowercase, at iinet.net.au.